What's up, guys? It's Carson back here on Toxic Gaming today with week 2 of the PPL, the Pokemon Premier League. Going on and I'm fighting Sly, coach of the Pittsburgh Pyroars. You know Sly, we fought him last season. Tough fucking game last season. But this is going to be on Showdown as we're on Wi-Fi and we disconnected once. Tried to do it again. I think we disconnected a second time on that, or we disconnected like so far deep in the battle. It would have been taking too long to like really try to recreate it on Wi-Fi, so we just figured let's just fucking do it on Showdown. Because of that, you will see a move Celebrate be used, I think, once by myself and once by Sly, something like that, just so we can make sure turns happen the way they did on Wi-Fi, and I'll let you guys know when we basically got to the point where we DC'd as well. We got DC'd pretty deep into the battle as far as things that actually happened, so that's something for you guys to know. As with PPL and stuff, the Pokepaste is going to be in the description for the full team, like the full details of everything. But as you can see on your screen, I'll just run through real quick what some things are and the ideas. We got Mega Kang with dual priority with Fake Out Sucker Punch, Fire Punch in return. Basic Mega Kang, I was really scared of his mons outspeeding me, especially with Rain Kingdra, so I wanted to have as much priority as possible to spam and stuff like that. And I believe I was speed tying as well the Victini, so if I could Sucker Punch and get the kill and not risk a speed tie, that'd be perfect. Next up, we got Chandelure, Reginald or Chandelure with Choice Scarfed. Basic Chandelure, dual stab, psychic, and then trick to trick off into I don't know if he would have had a real Pokemon like he doesn't really have on his squad as you see on your screen, then I could have got rid of his Scarf and taken the leftovers or something. Really, none of the mons on his team that we saw want to have, or that I would want to have a Choice Scarf, that I would want to give them mine. So I'm probably not going to be clicking Trick, but that's there anyway. Then we got Kenny Omega, Rotom Wash with leftovers. More mixed defensive, more special on the end of specially defensive Rotom Wash with Defog and Willow. This was my basically a hard lead mon, because really when I saw his team, whatever mon he led with on his team, Rotom could deal with. If it was the first two, his Mamo and his Mega Metacham, which is what he has as well, I could Willow for turn 1 and not care. If it was the Victini turn 1, I could Hydro or guess him to U-turn out and Volt Switch out and get initiative stuff. Same thing with the Pelipper and the Kingdra, and kind of with the Scyther as well. I could also Willow the Scyther. Stuff like that. So Rotom is my easy lead against this team to get myself into any position I want to be in as the game goes. Feral Thorn is Spike Dudley with Choppleberry, basically to be able to take a hit if I need to against Mega Metacham and to get a little extra Iron Barbs damage against him. Gyro Ball protects Spikes and Thunder. The Thunder is a little interesting because I'll tell you the meme for it. It's basically to one-shot, I believe, fully one-shot anything but a max HP Pelipper. And it's like if he brings a Scarf Pelipper against me and brought it in to try to like, okay, I can Hurricane twice and kill this thing while it can't do anything to me. I drop a Thunder and that Pelipper is all of a sudden gone. That would be amazing. And the cool thing I figured I could try with Feral Thorn to see what would happen. Fourth move would have been nice to have Stealth Rocks, but I went with this over instead to see if we can play it that way. Next up we have Lisa or Latias with a Haven Berry, max HP, dual stab, recover, and then surf as well to try to abuse the rain that he might set up. Basically let it work for us a little bit, giving us a way to hit Mamo and Victini pretty hard. And then the Haban Berry and max HP actually allows me to take, I think, even a Z boosted Draco Meteor or Z Draco Meteor from Swift Swim Kingdra. I can take a Choice Specs Draco. I can take any form of Draco he wants to click with Kingdra. I can take it and then follow up. If I land my Draco, follow up and kill it back. So that was really my keeping Kingdra under control mon is Latias. And then finally we have Carl Anderson or Drapion, Black Sludge. Max HP, a little bit of speed, but mostly max HP and 196 in attack. And adamant nature. Basically, his job is to get up T-spikes against the team, and then to just knock off items around. If I get if I get a kill, then I'm fine with it. But really, he's just meant to weaken things for Chandelure and maybe Kangaskhan to clean up later. That's really all that Drapion was there for. I'm not going to go into like full of Sly's draft that he could have brought, because basically the team you're seeing on your screen besides Scyther is the team I expected. Scyther was the one I was like, I could expect it, but I was like, I don't think it would be there. But if it easily could have been. It was one of those type of situations. But him having Mamoswine, Mega Metachamp, Victini, Pelipper, Kingdra was pretty expected. The only one he could have had instead with that would have been like if he didn't have Victini, because he was probably going to set up Rain, he could have brought Bulu, and that would have been a lot better. His number 1 pick, Tapu Bulu. Klefki was another one that he had, his number 2 pick, and he could have probably had that to be able to not have defog on Pelipper and stuff like that. But overall, I had situations to deal with either one of those two, mainly being Drapion. But yeah, basically Drapion was able to do a lot of things against his team, especially against the Klefki. Klefki couldn't defog away the T-Spikes on Drapion because Prankster is now nerfed by Dark types, which is really cool. But I'm just going to go into the battle here. I'm going to go on slow and try to like explain stuff as we're going on. He led with the Mamoswine and again led with Rotom Wash. I had no reason not to lead with Rotom. He decides to get his Rocks turn 1. I could have probably killed the Mamo turn 1, but I wanted to burn it in case it had a Sash and go for more of the long game play of burning this turn 1. He stays in Intoxics, and I didn't expect him to stay in, so I defogged away his Rocks. I was really not expecting him to stay in, so I just kind of like, okay, Rocks are going away. I knew he could have had like Freeze Dry or anything. I still could have taken it no matter what. Here he decides to switch out into the Metacham as I hard switched into Ferrothorn. Not my best matchup against this, but I could still deal with it. He decides to go for the Drain Punch. Again, Choppleberry, turn 2, 4, whatever. Losing Choppleberry kind of sucks, but at least I have it there. And I was able to guarantee a layer of spikes up against his team. Now I'm going to protect a Scout to see what he can do. That's basically what Ferrothorn is going to see, what I can scout for moves from him. And here, I decided to go into Latias as I saw the Zen Headbutt, guessing him to quick Drain Punch again, or the Zen Headbutt. Either one I can take and threaten this thing out hard. He now knows that, goes into his Scyther. Really good move on this, and I recovered here to get my Latias back up to full. I was really happy with that play. And I go back into Ferrothorn, and Scyther really doesn't do much to me. Like, it's an aerial ace, and it's just going to hurt him more and more, which is something he doesn't really want to do. But he did U-turn again to get more Iron Barbs damage, which kind of sucks because Ferrothorn's getting really weak now. In comes the Victini to pressure me pretty hard. I'm going to Gyro Ball. I probably should have set up another round of spikes or something there, but I Gyro Ball just to get damage on whatever would come in. And here again, I'm going to protect to scout what this Victini is going to do. And I see it goes for Shadow Ball. So I see he was predicting right there. He was predicting my Latias to come in or the Chandelure on the fire moves. Either one of those two, Shadow Ball would have decimated them. Especially 2 of them followed if he would have been able to follow up. But I'm really glad I have Ferrothorn to scout moves right here and things like that, because now I know that he has Shadow Ball. I know he's probably more leaning towards the Special Victini, maybe with Thunder to abuse the rain, so I gotta be a little bit more careful to play around this thing. So I decided to go into Rotom. He might have Thunder, but I think I can play around it, and he actually goes for the Blue Flare to that turn, which is really nice for me to switch in there on the Blue Flare instead of any other move. Here he's a little scared of the Victini, and he goes for he's more scared of Energy Ball. I thought he was going to switch out, so I Volt Switched. I thought he would be scared of Hydro a lot more, because I could have just straight up killed. And so I go into my Kang here, knowing I can Fake Out plus Sucker Punch on this thing and kill it no matter what. He goes into his Pelipper, sets up the Rain, and here's where we see that this is his Rocky Helmet Mon, or not his Rocky Helmet Mon. Like this was one that could have been a Rocky Helmet Mon. And because it wasn't, I wasn't afraid to click return on the second part. I could have probably clicked return twice and been great, but still. This is one of the turns here where he got the Scald. He went for Scald in the rain, did the chunk of damage. In Wi-Fi, he burned me, so I had to quick Celebrate here, and he had Willow on this thing to try to guarantee a burn, just so we could set it up as Wi-Fi should have set up. Nothing else changed. This was the exactly way it was on the Wi-Fi. So I switched back out into Ferrothorn. Kind of we're ready to sack Ferrothorn at this point, but I also wanted to see if I could get some other things off. I protect here to see what the Kingdra is going to go for. He goes for the Surf, and I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't have Hydro. He has Hydro. Like, it was one of those things. I think I clicked, pretty sure I clicked Gyro Ball there to get damage, but now I have my Latias in here. I have it the matchup that I want against his Kingdra. If Slide takes the bait, he needs to be taking the bait here because he's in the rain. He has everything he would need to one-shot me with Draco. It's like I'm baiting pretty hard that I have Latias here against him to basically take on this Kingdra, and he goes for it. We see with the Draco, it does not even half. He lands his Draco. He was whiter, which is really cool, and then I land my Draco back. Kingdra's dead. It all worked out. The plan that we had for Latias worked out really well, and now he brings in Scyther. And here I was kind of scared of Pursuit. I was really scared of Pursuit, but it was like if I stayed in to try to hit Scyther, I'm not going to do damage at all to him anyway. If he U-turns on and doesn't click Pursuit, I could end up losing Latias that way. So I had to risk it, and he ended up not having Pursuit, and I go into my Rotom on his U-turn, and he goes into Pelipper here. And Rotom actually, due to leftovers, would live the toxic damage, which was really cool. And because I lived on that, he went back out into his Mamoswine. Kind of worried, and I clicked Volt Switch just because I knew I was going to die toxic. I probably should have clicked like Hydro just to do damage to anything anyway, but I was expecting him to go into something else besides this, not to stop the Volt Switch. But now I go into Drapion. I know I can get a set round of T-Spikes up here. And I didn't expect him to stay in and click the Stealth Rock. It was like he was a burned Mamoswine. He couldn't do anything to me. Even Earthquakes aren't going to do anything to me at all. I kind of expect him to be a little bit more aggro and go into like Metacham or go into Victini to really scare me out here. So I decided to get the T-Spikes up now. We ended up trading Hazard, which was okay. And here, he's like going to click Earthquake. It'll do 51%. That does a chunk. Yeah, I click Knockoff. That does a lot more chunk, and it removes his leftovers. And thanks to my Black Sludge and him being burned, I actually will live the next Earthquake, but he over-predicted it. It's a fact where I knew I could live the next Earthquake, so I stayed in. He over-predicts probably me going into like Latias to dodge the Earthquake, and so he tries to Toxic that turn. I just stayed in and doesn't do dick all. Knock off the second turn, and I do get the kill on Mamo. So Drapion already pulled in more work than I expected Drapion to do, which is really cool. And now with this Metacham poisoned, it's not toxic poison, but it's still something. He will be clicking Drain Punch. I ended up living the Drain Punch, and I believe this turn is where with the Metacham staying in, this was I think where we started up on Wi-Fi again. It was right as Mamoswine died when Wi-Fi cut out for us and we DC'd. And so here I realized like I didn't need Drapion anymore. It did its job fine. And so I was just going to go for Celebrate to make sure Drapion died. Basically, I died to something. I died to something. I don't remember what it was. I'm pretty sure I died to that Drain Punch. I died to something. And so I needed Drapion to die and this to stay in. And right here was where... this was right here where the DC actually happened. But I needed to have Drapion die there. I don't remember what he died to. I cannot remember for the life of me. I think it was like Drain Punch was supposed to kill more or something like that. It was actually killed, but it didn't kill, so I clicked Celebrate anyway. But here, this is where I kind of misplayed. We were back on Showdown, and I kind of was a little worried about what to go into here, and I went into Latias again to try to threaten him out again and scare him out. And I pulled the double into Kangaskhan, and he actually went for the Ice Punch. I kind of needlessly sacked my Kangaskhan when I could have gone for just a hard side shock against this thing, or gone into Chandelure and even scared him even more. But I kind of sacked my Kangaskhan without meaning to. But here, Chandelure just gonna quick Shadow Ball. I get it. I get the kill on Pelipper, which is really nice. But because he does have Rain, I needed to now try to stall Rain turns, or 2 KO this thing with Shadow Ball, and I really depended on what he was gonna do. Now he went for Toxic, and I was like, oh my god, is Sly gonna basically let me 2 KO this thing? And Shadow Ball doesn't get the higher roll. I don't do a KO. He just roosts, and now it's Chandelure sitting here losing health. It's not good. I go into Latias because I need Chandelure to be basically win against the other ones with Shadow Ball. I need Latias to do some damage, and sadly, U-Turn is able to do that beforehand. I cannot remember what Scyther's speed actually is. I think my Latias wasn't paced enough to outspeed Scyther. I think that was the problem. Or it was a speed tie and he won the speed tie with U-Turn. It was something like that. But I could have got a little bit of damage on Scyther, which would have been really nice, because then I could have brought Chandelure in here. As we see, I go ahead and do, because it's my only mon left. I could have brought this in and potentially had chances for Shadow Ball to kill everything. It would have been a lot closer of a game to have that, because then his Scyther would have to come in here and live the Shadow Ball after a Draco hit. And thanks to what the probably speed tire or my own speed calcs not being right, he actually does have this to be able to kill my Chandelure, which is really sad. But I'm glad for this game, even though it was a 2-0 loss. I'm very, very, very glad that my Latias idea worked. That Sly did take the bait for it. He was, I think, like straight dual stab or stuff like that. Not very wide area of stuff for Kingdra. But I'm glad that worked. I'm kind of sad I kind of needlessly sacked off Kangaskhan when even though it was burned, it still could have done some nice chip damage on things. It would have been a lot nicer to have just, again, maybe stall out some more rain turns, so I could have came in and done Flamethrower instead of Shadow Ball. Like, it would have been stuff like that to basically take on the Scyther a lot easier. With Rotom, I was kind of surprised. Like, I really didn't play that well with Rotom and getting it so weak so early. And if I would have just clicked Hydro, I could have knocked out the Mamoswine and then had an extra Mon for Drapion to deal with, which would have been a lot nicer. Drapion pulled in the work for what it needed to do, really. It only got 2 things poisoned, and it didn't come into much big a play. Like, I probably shouldn't have put up the T-Spikes and wasted that turn. I could have probably just 2-KO'd with Knockoff and been done with it. But still, like, being able to do that was really nice. Pharaoh scouted a lot for me, which I was really happy with. I was able to see the Victini having Shadow Ball. I was able to see that it was a special Victini. I was able to see stuff like that. See that Kingdra had Surf, and then find out it had both Surf and Hydro. Like, it was able to scout more for me, which was really nice. So good game to Sly and everything. His link will be down in the description below, as will all the other D2 coaches every week, as there always is. So you guys can check out their battles that are all going up today as well. I think they all have it on Wi-Fi, so it looks a little bit better than this. But thank you guys for coming out and stuff. Next week we're fighting David, good friend David, one of the guys in my front office to helps me out a lot with teams and stuff. Fighting him and his FC Poplio, it's gonna be a time. It's gonna be a time and a half. But anyway, thank you guys for coming out. I'm Carson's Toxic Gaming, and as always, you guys stay toxic. We'll see you guys.